The man I called Uncle Ray for 23 years wasn't actually my uncle. He was my father. And I found out 3 days after my mother's funeral. Not through a heartfelt confession. Not through some emotional family meeting. I found out because my drunk cousin punched my older brother during the reception dinner and screamed, "You act like Daniel isn't Ray's kid too." The entire restaurant went silent. Forks stopped moving. My aunt dropped her wine glass. And my brother? My brother slowly turned toward me with the kind of expression people get when they realize a secret finally escaped the cage. That was the moment my whole identity cracked open. Because suddenly every strange childhood memory started making sense. Why Uncle Ray always showed up to my school events. Why my mother got nervous whenever someone joked that we looked alike. Why my legal father treated me differently from my brothers. And trust me, the truth I uncovered after that dinner destroyed 2 families, exposed a 30-year lie, and nearly got 1 man arrested. So if you enjoy emotional family drama, shocking secrets, and realistic storytelling with twists that feel painfully real, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below where you're watching from. Because this story changed the way I look at family forever. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 32 years old. And until last spring, I thought I knew exactly who I was. I grew up in a small town outside Nashville. Not rich. Not poor. Just normal. My dad, Richard Mercer, worked at a tire warehouse for most of his life. Quiet guy. Short temper. Never hugged much. My mother, Elaine, was the opposite. Warm. Funny. The kind of woman who remembered everybody's birthday. Then there was Uncle Ray. Technically, he was my mother's childhood best friend. At least that's what everybody always said. Ray owned an auto repair shop across town. Never married. No kids. Always around. Birthdays. Christmas. Baseball games. Honestly, he was more emotionally present than my actual father. Back then I thought that was just because he was lonely. Now, I know better. Growing up, people constantly joked that I looked like Ray. Same eyes. Same crooked smile. Same dark hair. Every single time somebody mentioned it, my mother laughed too quickly. Too nervously. And my father? He'd suddenly leave the room. Funny how kids notice things long before they understand them. But you don't question your parents when you're young. You trust the story they hand you. Even when pieces of it don't fit. My childhood wasn't terrible. But it was uneven. My older brother Jason could do no wrong. Football captain. Straight A student. Dad's favorite. Meanwhile, I always felt like a guest in my own house. Richard never hit me. Never abused me. But there was distance. Coldness. Like every interaction with me required effort. I spent years trying to earn affection that never came naturally. And the crazy part? Uncle Ray filled those gaps without even trying. He taught me how to drive. Came to my graduation. Helped me buy my first truck. When I got dumped in college, he drove 2 hours just to sit beside me on a fishing dock while I complained about life. That's not normal uncle behavior. That's father behavior. I just didn't know it yet. My mother got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer the year I turned 31. And if you've ever watched someone slowly disappear from sickness, you know how brutal it is. The hospital smell. The exhaustion. The way strong people suddenly become fragile. During those final months, something strange started happening. Mom kept trying to tell me something. More than once she'd say, "Daniel, there's something you deserve to know." Then she'd stop, cry, and change the subject. At the time I assumed she was scared about dying. I had no idea she was carrying a secret older than me. 3 days before she passed away, I visited her alone. She looked exhausted. Tiny. Barely able to keep her eyes open. I held her hand while rain tapped softly against the hospital window. Then out of nowhere she whispered, "Ray loves you very much." I smiled. I know. But she kept staring at me. Almost like she wanted me to understand something deeper. Then tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry." At the time I thought she meant dying. Turns out, she meant lying. She passed away 2 nights later. And honestly, I thought the hardest part of my life was over. I was wrong. The funeral itself felt like a blur. Flowers. People hugging me. Bad coffee in paper cups. You know how funerals are. Everyone keeps saying, "She's in a better place." Meanwhile, your whole chest feels hollow. Ray looked destroyed. Completely destroyed. More emotional than my own father. At one point I caught him crying alone behind the church. When he saw me, he quickly wiped his face and said, "Your mother was a special woman." Something about the way he said it felt heavier than grief. Like regret. Then came the reception dinner. The moment that changed everything. My cousin Brent had been drinking all afternoon. Everybody knew it. Brent and Jason started arguing about something stupid involving money from Mom's estate. Voices got louder. Chairs scraped. Then Brent suddenly yelled, "You act like Daniel isn't Ray's kid too." Silence. Pure silence. I looked at Jason. And the second I saw his face, I knew. People don't look shocked by lies. They look shocked when the truth finally escapes. I stood up slowly. What did he just say? Nobody answered. My father stared at the table. Jason cursed under his breath. And Ray? Ray looked like a man watching his entire world collapse in real time. I asked again. Louder this time. What did he mean? Then my father finally whispered, "Sit down, Daniel." That sentence made me angrier than yelling would've. Because suddenly I realized something horrifying. Everybody knew. Everybody except me. I walked out of that restaurant before somebody called the police. Jason followed me into the parking lot. Rain had started pouring. Perfect movie timing, right? I turned toward him. Tell me the truth. Jason looked miserable. Then quietly said, Dad found out Mom had an affair after you were born. My stomach dropped. Ray? He nodded. I honestly thought I might throw up. Jason explained that Mom and Ray dated briefly before she married Richard. Apparently years later, during a rough period in the marriage, they reconnected. And 9 months later? I happened. The worst part? Richard stayed. He raised me anyway. But according to Jason, he never fully forgave Mom. Or me. Man, hearing that messes with your head. Because suddenly your entire childhood gets rewritten. Every cold moment. Every awkward silence. Every strange look. It all finally made sense. I drove straight to Ray's house that night. And trust me, I wasn't calm. Ray opened the door looking exhausted. He already knew why I was there. I could see it instantly. You knew? I asked. He nodded slowly. How long? Your whole life. That answer hit like a punch. My whole life. 32 years. I walked inside feeling numb. Ray sat down heavily in his recliner. Then quietly said something I'll never forget. I wanted to tell you 1,000 times. I laughed bitterly. Yeah? And what stopped you? He looked down. Your mother. Apparently, Mom begged him never to reveal the truth. She was terrified of destroying the family. Terrified Richard would leave. Terrified Jason would hate her. Terrified the town would find out. So instead, they buried the secret. And let me grow up confused. I looked at Ray. Did you ever want to be my father? His eyes filled instantly. Every single day. That sentence wrecked me. Because for the first time in my life, I realized why he always looked at me differently. Not like a nephew. Like a son he wasn't allowed to claim. I stayed there almost 4 hours. Talking. Arguing. Asking questions. And honestly, part of me hated him. But another part understood him. Love makes people cowards sometimes. Especially when families are involved. The next morning, I confronted Richard. My legal father. He was sitting alone on the porch drinking coffee. Looking older than I'd ever seen him. I sat beside him quietly. Then asked, "Did you ever love me?" That question sat between us for a long time. Finally he answered, "Yes. But sometimes, it hurt to look at you. Not gonna lie. That one nearly broke me. Because deep down, kids always know when love feels complicated. Even if nobody explains why." Richard admitted he almost left Mom after learning the truth. But he stayed for Jason. And eventually, for me too. I tried, he whispered. I know you did, I said. And weirdly enough, that conversation healed something. Not everything. But something. A few weeks later I took a DNA test. Not because I doubted the truth anymore. Honestly, after seeing old photos of Ray at my age, it was painfully obvious. Still, part of me needed proof. When the results came back confirming Ray was my biological father, I just sat there staring at the paper. No dramatic music. No huge reaction. Just silence. Because how exactly are you supposed to feel when your identity changes at 32? Angry? Relieved? Grateful? I felt all of it. At once. Things got even messier after that. Turns out my mother left behind letters. A whole box of them. Some addressed to me. Some to Ray. And one addressed to Richard. Jason found them hidden in Mom's closet. We sat together in his garage reading through decades of secrets. One letter from Mom to Ray said, "I wish Daniel could know the truth without it destroying him." Another said, "Watching you love him from a distance is killing me." Those letters changed how I saw her. Not as some evil manipulator. Just a flawed human being trapped inside one terrible decision that kept growing bigger every year. But then we found something else. A letter Richard never opened. Still sealed. Written by Ray 29 years earlier. Jason carefully handed it to me. Inside, Ray admitted he was willing to leave town completely if Richard wanted. He also wrote, Daniel deserves stability more than I deserve happiness. Man. That hit hard. Because suddenly I realized every adult in this situation sacrificed something. Even the people who made terrible choices. A month later, Ray had a heart attack. Stress. Age. Too many years carrying guilt. At the hospital, I sat beside him while machines beeped softly around us. He looked terrified. Not of dying. Of losing me. Then quietly he asked, "Do you hate me?" I thought about that question for a long time. Then answered honestly, "No. But I'm still trying to figure out who you are to me." Ray nodded slowly. And for the first time since Mom died, I saw peace in his face. He survived. Barely. After that, things slowly started changing. Not magically. Not perfectly. But slowly. Ray and I started fishing together once a month. Jason stopped pretending everything was normal. And Richard? Believe it or not, he eventually shook Ray's hand for the first time in 20 years. Not forgiveness exactly. But exhaustion. Some people get too tired to keep carrying anger. A few months ago, I visited my mother's grave alone. And standing there, I finally understood something. Families aren't built from DNA alone. Richard raised me. Ray loved me. Both things were true. And life is complicated enough to hold both at the same time. If you made it this far into the story, thank you for listening. Comment below. If you discovered your whole identity was built on a family secret, would you forgive them? And if you enjoy emotional storytelling, family drama, hidden secrets, and realistic twists, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications because this channel is full of stories that stay with you long after they end. At the end of the day, the truth doesn't always destroy families. Sometimes, the silence does. So goodbye, take care. And I will see you in the next story.